Hi, I'm back with the second chapter of Substitute Principle by MischievousAtHeart. So let's get right into it. All of you, one by one, will fight me in that building. He pointed to the building behind him. Without quirks. There are no rules beside that. All you have to do is to make me yield or capture me. Simple as that. It's not simple if the hero there will be fighting is the one who masters fighting without the quirk. Shinso groaned inwardly. It seems that the other students have similar reactions because they look frightened at the idea of fighting Aizawa-sensei by themselves alone. And you have to remember, be keen in your surroundings. The teacher shivered when he said that, and the students felt a feeling of dread at his warning. Aizawa-sensei went to the building, but not before leaving an automatic lottery box. A bell came out of the box, and the other students cheered, while the person whose name was picked all but thought why he became the sacrifice to this exercise. The ball had his name written in red, Shinso Hitoshi. Fate must have loved him so much that he will be the sacrifice to fight his mentor, didn't they? Once Shinso is inside the building, all he can say is that it's very dark. He walked through the corridors, alert of any presence and wary of his surroundings. The place is eerily quiet, like abandoned base of a villain headquarters. Since the silence is deafening, because all it has done to Shinso is to be more anxious, anticipating when his mentor will plan to attack him. If there is any lesson that Aizawa-sensei taught him, it is that there will be people who will be attacking you in surprise. And being friend of an enigma called Midoriya Izuku, he learned that you should never trust your surroundings. And that is why when he stepped on the floor and his foot sank as if the tile were a button, he immediately ran in the opposite direction. And his instincts were right, because the tile had an explosion that made a very nasty hole in the floor. On the other hand of the building, where Aizawa saw Shinso running away, the man groaned when the floor exploded. As expected, the place was rigged, just like Nezu did in their third year. Now with Nezu, there have to be more traps inside the building. Aizawa walked in the direction where he saw Shinso run, and cursed when he felt a thin thread caught in his finger. That was the only warning he got as he sidestepped to dodge an incoming electric rod that is aimed at him. The rod pierced through the wall with its impact, and Aizawa can't help but gulp when he saw it. Is Nezu trying to kill us again? He was now more aware of his surroundings, his hands folded in his chest to avoid accidentally triggering any traps, and his eyes trained on the area, trying to search for Shinso, while being cautious of the basket traps that Principal has set up again. A few more traps triggered, and minutes later, he found Shinso stuck to the floor, a seemingly sticky substance keeping him in place like a fly trap. When he saw his mentor, Shinso laughed so hard at his appearance. Who cannot when Aizawa's hair is singed? Hey sensei, I'm sorry I can't fight because I'm in quite a predicament. Aizawa just nodded and clicked a button from the device in his hand. A voice sounded outside, announcing Shinso's defeat that promptly started the automatic box again to pick another student.
This is why I said you should be keen on your surroundings.
The man sighed while trying to help his students out of the substance.
That's right, Sensei. I escaped a total of 15 traps before the 15th one was a rod that made me stumble back and crash to the floor. I don't even know that someone put the sticky trap here.
Surprisingly, the sticky substance immediately dissolved when Aizawa put alcohol in it.
Don't worry, I'm not mad.
Aizawa then huffed that sounded like a chortle.
You even escaped more traps than me when I was your time.
Really? The purple-haired boy asked disbelievingly, and Aizawa gave him a nod as a response.
Yeah, I only escaped about 13 traps that time, before a trap chopped my hair off and Nezu captured me with a net.
The man stopped in his tracks for a second, before looking up at the upper corner of the room. Shinzo heard his teacher sigh as he followed where he is looking, and there he saw something blink. Oh, it's a camera. Wait, why the hell does one seem different from the usual cameras utilized during the trainings?
This exercise is not about fighting, no. It is the first part of Nezu's test.
Shinzo looked at Aizawa-sensei in bewilderment. He stared at his teacher for a moment before something clicked in his head.
So you were saying that someone who will teach us this the principal himself?
Aizawa just nodded in affirmation, and Shinzo can't help but remember what Kaminari and Ashido told him about fighting Nezu in their exam. He operated a huge robot and chased us through the area. All our attacks were useless against him. Shinzo growled when he was finally out of the trap with Aizawa-sensei's help. What a psychopath, he thought. A question suddenly appeared out of his mind, and he voiced it out as such to his teacher. Did anyone survive this first test when you experienced this, Sensei? A grin appeared on Aizawa-sensei's lips, a quiet reply of
no one,
before he disappeared in the dark once again, and Shinzo stood there, praying for his classmates' safety. Before, even if they didn't get caught by the sheer number of traps hidden in this building, they will have to fight the teacher who seemed to want his students to suffer if his eyes were any indication. Unbeknownst to the two of them earlier, the very person who set up the traps was grinning with glee, eyes shining with mirth, as he hides in plain sight, concealed in the darkness of the building. In the end, no one survived. This was no battle situation in the first place. The supposed battle situation became a survival situation. In the whole class, they even considered that fighting Aizawa-sensei in that building is an achievement, because that means they escaped the onslaught of traps long enough that Aizawa-sensei found them and defeated them. Only 3 of them were able to fight Aizawa-sensei, namely Bakugo, Todoroki, and Yaoyorozu. By the time all of them were gathered once again, all of their appearances looked disheveled and a mess. Even Aizawa-sensei, who has a hair singed and a part of his costume were torn.
Congratulations, Bakugo, Todoroki, and Yaoyorozu. You put up a good fight. As for the rest, don't be down, because in the first place, it is already expected that the building will be rigged.
Aizawa-sensei stated before he sighed, looking somewhere else, and he saw what he was looking for. If only he can punch the principal, he would have done so long ago. What do you mean that the building is rigged, Sensei? Does that mean even you don't know about the traps?
If I know about the traps, why am I looking like this, Kirishima?
That clamped the red-haired boy's mouth. Aizawa Sensei then shut his eyes tight before pinching the bridge of his nose.
The real mastermind behind the rigged building is not me, but...
Me! A familiar voice interrupted their teacher, and all of the students turned around, shocked when they saw the person. He was sitting on a bench, fiddling his fingers, as if the current event bores him. Midoriya? It was laughable, really. All of them looked like a gaping fish, too shocked to even think of something to say as they stared at him. They began shouting and whispering to themselves, asking if he was acting as a substitute. Well, they were right, only if they found out. Ah, I'm afraid that I'm not your classmate, students. Aizawa, would you like to explain? Aizawa sighed once again, rubbing his hand through his face to show how stressed he was.
The person you are seeing now is the principal in Midoriya's body. They have their bodies swapped, so in the meantime, the principal will test you, albeit in the problem child's face. Hopefully you don't mind.
Izuki inwardly laughed at this statement. They will indeed mind it. Before they can even retort, Izuku immediately clapped his hands and gave him a smile. Well, that fight in the building is a pre-assessment for your analysis class. It involves trying to utilize your skills and quirks to avoid getting caught up in the traps that was set. Think of this as an exercise where you are trying to catch a villain in their hideout. A lot of them include traps for intruders so that they won't be able to kill you or escape. The expression on the supposed principal's face then turned serious. Unlike the traps I said, those traps in the bases of villains have the intention to kill you, so it's better to hone your analyzation and predictive skills now. This shook the class even further, some shivering at the fact that it was a taste of hero work that they will encounter in the future, although it made Izuku happy that many of them looked determined. He thought, how will they react to the next test if in the test some are already afraid? The green-haired boy knows that the world is cruel. It never gives you a chance to know what will happen next. No one is really omniscient, even Nezu. He said it himself. It is his skills that help him deduce everything. He just shook his head and smiled before going on. He put his hands on his pocket, trying to show a relaxed aura to his classmates. He called their attention to them, and all of them directed their eyes to him. Now, let's go to the main test. He tapped his foot and turned around to gesture at the buildings that is surrounding them. Think that this area is full of people. There are lots of people inside the buildings, doing their work, studies, or other activities. He faced his students and gave a grin, eyes shining in excitement. As I was squinted at the principal, his instincts screamed at him that the rat is planning something again. The man surveyed the way principal stood, an odd sense of deja vu hitting at him full force. However, what if there is a villain on the loose? What if there are bombs planted in the area and suddenly an explosion occurred? An explosion boomed in one of the buildings from afar, just as he clicked a button from a detonator in his pocket. Izuku chuckled at their reactions, the panic and fear evident in their expressions. Anger in Bakugo's case, realization and resignation as his teacher's eyes widened and a sigh escaped his lips. He grinned so wide that it looked manic, tilting his head a bit as if taunting his classmates. "I'll give you a student." He showed his finger before pointing to himself. "Catch me if you can." Then, just as he said, he disappeared, giving them no time to react. Green lightning danced in his body as he used his quirk to escape. This is crazy. He is crazy. This is the thought of many students as they run around the grounds to find the villain, or even more possible bombs, because just after the first explosion boomed, second explosion rang. The villain, who was the principal in their classmate's body, was nowhere to be found. Really, the principal in the chaos incarnate, and added with the fact that he currently resides in their Sunshine Boy's body. Well, it's a nightmare that came true. "Check the tall buildings 2 blocks away. It seems like order of detonation are the buildings that were surrounding the city," said Yaoyorozu, who was pointing at the tall building just near the end of the grounds. A group of students nodded and went to check the building. Before they went ahead, though, Yaoyorozu gave them each a radio device that they can communicate with even from afar. "For the others, let's check the building on the other end of the ground. It is possible that a bomb is also there," Ida exclaimed, hands chopping as he gestured towards the direction of the other building. However, Shinso felt like there is something that he still needs to check here. So he told to the representatives that they will be here for a while. They looked skeptical, but in the end they agreed and said that he should come with them soon. The purple-headed boy just nodded, and thus he began walking towards the center of the city. He felt like he saw Midoriya, the principal, rather here earlier, just hiding in the trees where his hair can camouflage. It seems like no one has seen a clue of a principal if he is the one who was left behind here. He hid in an alley between 2 buildings and saw someone sitting on a branch of a tree talking to someone on the phone. Shinso leaned in closer and tried to eavesdrop on what the principal was saying. Contrary to what Shinso thought, Izuku really made the purple-haired boy to see him, so that he will follow him here. He was the only person that he can trust when it comes to secrets, so he came up with his plan. He called his mentor and gave him updates about the class. "No one survived the pre-assessment, Sensei." He spoke on the phone, trying to make his voice quiet enough so only Shinso can hear it. "Well, that was expected. How are they doing with the main test?" They thought that the buildings that have bombs implanted are the ones that are surrounding the fake city. It's an excellent deduction. It's really close to where the real bombs are located." "They'll probably know soon enough. After all, the villains who wanted attention will go for the types of buildings where they can show to the other people they have power over them," he said, his voice turning serious. Nezu just hummed in agreement on the other line. Well, that's all for now, Sensei. See you soon. See you soon, Izuku-kun. The call ended, and Izuku jumped down from the tree, stretching his limbs. You can come out now, Shinso. After stretching his limbs, he turned out to face the purple-haired boy, who looks aghast seeing him. Izuku snorted at his shocked expression. You really are acting, aren't you? A frown appeared on Shinso's face. The confusion was apparent in his eyes. Izuku, instead of confirming it, shook his head before walking towards the boy. What do you think, Shinso-kun? He stopped when he was in front of him, before circling him like a predator eyeing his prey. Shinso gulped at the eyes that were staring at him. Am I Midoriya Izuku, or... He puts his hands on the boy's shoulders, almost a maniacal grin appearing on his face. Am I the principal of UA? The green-haired boy chuckled at the hint of fear that showed in the purple-haired boy's body language, his shoulders becoming stiffer. Damn it, it's you, Midoriya. Shinso gritted his teeth. Really? How come anyone would think that Midoriya is a sunshine child? There is no one who's crazy enough to act as the principal in front of everyone and fool them. Wow, what an awesome deduction! Nezu would be proud. Izuku laughed, patting the back of his friend, who just scowled. I'm afraid that you can't tell anyone about this, Hitoshi. The green-haired boy then added, making eye contact with Shinso again. As much as Shinso hated to admit, he shivered at the gaze directed at him. It looks like he was threatening him with just his eyes. Not only that, when he knows Midoriya only calls him by his name when he says something serious to him. Why? Won't everything be easier for everyone if you are exposed to be acting again? He crossed his arms, showing defiance, but instead of taking him seriously, the boy in front of him smirked. Oh, if only he can punch Midoriya in his face now. Well, I have some interesting points that might persuade you. The way the green-haired boy's eyes gleamed made Shinso think that he doesn't have a choice regarding this matter. He stared at Izuku, who walked steps away from him, but still enough for him to see what he is doing. 1. All the teachers believe that I am Nezu. How will the others believe you if even the teachers thought I was the principal? I had a foolproof alibi. Izuku showed one finger, his head tilted to show an ever-knowing smile. 2. Even if you said I'm just acting, I already talked to the person with the body switch quirk on campus. They agreed to cover for me if this crucial information gets leaked. He showed the second finger, putting the first and the second to his chin, as if daring Shinso to even try going against him. 3. I already had a plan ready for you to listen your trainings with Aizawa-sensei. The purple-haired boy looked at him in surprise and doubt. How would you do that? Shinso asked skeptically, and Izuku just smiled. Since I have the connection with Nezu, it's easy to manipulate your schedule. I'll just be the one who will teach you in Sensei Suppo's trainings. You won't need to get beaten up at all. The green-haired boy chuckled as he put his arm on Shinso's shoulder, before pulling him closer and whispering. Lastly, I know that you like to see our classmates suffer. Don't even deny it. I know you well enough at this point. He put up another finger, and by now Shinso knows that he is cornered, which was proven true by the grin that showed up on his friend's face. The purple-haired boy sighed. Is it really necessary for Midoriya to threaten him if he knows that he will do it anyway, because he wanted to see their other classmates suffer? Well, if you can beat them, then join them. He shrugged and gave his reply. All right, you got me. Izuku's grin turned into a softer one, showing genuine happiness, as he isn't the embodiment of chaos he talked to earlier. Well, he might not regret this decision if it makes his classmates suffer and Izuku happy. It's a win-win. Great. I thought I still had to drug you somewhere here in this fake city and hide you in some locked basement and leave you there until I was done acting. Never mind. He forgot that his friend is also a psychopath like the principal. What the fuck, Izuku? His eyes widened in horror, and Izuku just laughed at his reaction. The green-haired boy swung his arm around Shinso's shoulder, pulling the purple-haired boy closer to him. Kidding, kidding. You just need to cooperate with me and everything will be fine, Hitoshi. The playful expression in the green-haired boy's face disappeared, now replaced with a soft and more grateful one. So, what do I need to do? Shinso asked Izuku, who just smirked at him in reply. Well, you need to do this with me. Yeah, Momo, we already searched this whole building, and there are no signs of bombs everywhere, Jiro said over the radio given to them, informing their vice representative about their fruitless search. They already searched this building 2 times and looked for every nook and cranny, but still no bombs. It's the same situation here. If the bombs aren't located in the buildings surrounding the fake city, then where are they? Came in the frustrated questions of Yaoyorozu, and Jiro has absolutely no idea what is the answer to that. She looked to her side and saw Uraraka seems to be in deep thought, her chin propped in the palm of her right hand. Hey, are you okay? Jiro asked the brunette, who got out of her stupor when she put a hand on her shoulder. The girl gave her a smile and said that she was fine. What are you thinking about anyway? She asked Uraraka, whose expression turned into worry once again. I was just thinking, if in the last 2 buildings we didn't see the bombs, then there are still 2 other places in this fake city where they may be located. What do you mean, Uraraka? Said Yaoyorozu on the radio, and Uraraka bit her lips. The first building that exploded is an office building. The second one is supposedly a mall. Both of these buildings are considered heavily populated during the day, which villains might take the opportunity to bomb. Juro gasped in realization, panic showing in her eyes as she looked at Uraraka. Then the hospital and the schools nearby the center of the fake city are the next targets. Just as Yaoyorozu said that, 2 explosions occurred and rang in the fake city. The group of students sent to the 3rd building immediately went out. That near the center of the city, the smoke is in the air, and in just few seconds they went out. A faint scream resounded in the area. That sounds like, Jura exclaimed when she heard of the familiar scream, and Uraraka immediately looked pale, before she ran towards the center of the fake city. Oh my god, it's Shinso-kun! I thought this was a test. Principal, why the hell are you out to kill me? All of the students arrived at the center of the fake city, seeing Shinzo bound by ropes and the principal dragging him around like a ragdoll. "Why don't you figure it out yourself? Or perhaps our company would like to figure it out themselves." The principal turned around to face the class. A mocking smile plastered on his face as he dropped Shinzo to the ground. Said purple-haired boy groaned, his eyes panicked as he saw all of the class gathered there. "No, all of you aren't supposed to be here," Shinzo shouted, immediately trying to stand up, but was kicked to the ground by the principal's shoe. "What do you mean, Shinzo?" Kaminari asked, his voice having a slight tremor that shows his fear about this situation. The principal shook his head before a grin appeared on his face. He gestured towards his surroundings, the carnage that was left behind due to the explosions that occurred. "Ah, look at how much you have failed, heroes. A pity if seeing this is a real situation. A lot of people would have died at this point." Some students shivered at his grave tone, but most of all they noticed how he doesn't seem to care that people might have died. "Is this really the principal?" The principal sighed, placing his palm on his face before running it down and propping his chin on it. He wagged his finger, a blank expression on his face, but the eyes were telling a different matter. "But I am generous enough to give you another chance to redeem yourself." He stood up straighter, his hands once again gripped on Shinzo's shirt like it was handled on a bag. This time Shinzo became much more frightened and alarmed, flailing his hands around and trying to get free from the principal's grasp, but alas, it was futile. "Guys, run! Just leave me behind!" he yelled, but before he can even finish this statement, a hand chopped on his pressure point, which made his vision fade away to black. A certain sound rang through the city, and the screen in the center of the fake city was replicating the screens of Times Square, showed a timer of 15 minutes. Just as the sound finished, a noise of metal creaking and clanking resounded in the area, and the students saw the robots that they fought in the UA entrance exam, except that the zero-pointers is also included in the battle. Devon laughed at their terrified expressions as he carried the unconscious purple boy in his bag. He gave the students one last taunting smile before he disappeared in the wind once again, green spark flying, signifying the use of a quirk. However, just as he was about to vanish, the students heard his voice. Warning, a threat. "Come to get your colleague for me. But when the time stops, so does he." What the fuck? What the fuck? This isn't a test at all. This isn't a test at all. Kaminari exclaimed as he ran around the area, defeating robots left and right that they were trying to actually kill him like in the UA entrance exam. Except this time the robots seemed they have less restraint in harming the students.
"Shut up, dance face. The sooner we can beat up the principal, the better."
Just as he said that, Bakugo screamed, using his quirk to obliterate the robots that they were coming at him. It gave them a momentary relief that many robots were defeated, only to be horrified that there are still many robots that were coming out of nowhere. Just how many robots does the principal have? "There are just too many. We need someone to go to Shinzo-kun before the time stops," Hagekure said, pointing to the timer that shows that there are only 10 minutes left. Seeing that they already spent 5 minutes trying to defeat the endless spawn of robots, Yaoyorozu made a decision. Uraraka, Ida, Asui, you go ahead to where the principal headed earlier. You are the ones who know of Midoriya's quirk the most. Yaoyorozu commanded at them, nodding towards the direction the principal left earlier. An explosion resounded in their right, and they saw Bakugo now having a hard time due to the sheer number of robots that were trying to corner him. Go on, we'll make the way for you guys, Yojiro said as he snapped the wires that were trying to get the trio before jumping another robot. Understood. 2, Uraraka, let's go. The blue-haired representative sprinted towards the building that the principal entered earlier, with the girls following him behind. Thanks to the collective effort of the class, the trio arrived at the building unscathed. They entered the building and saw how dark inside the building was. Luckily, all of them had flashlights in their costumes to use in case of emergency. Be careful, Kiro. This building might be also rigged with traps, Asu tried to warn her parents, but suddenly they heard something click. Immediately, the green-haired girl pulled the two away to safety with her tongue. The area where they were standing earlier is now a huge gap between the hallways of the building. Just how crazy the principal is to set up traps like this, Uraraka frustratingly massaged her hand. The worry for her friend and the fear she was feeling at the moment all mixing up. We'll find a way, Uraraka. We just need to be more alert from now on. Ida made a chopping motion to the point as the space beside the gap where they can walk around. They passed the gap quickly, and they became more alert of their surroundings, flashing their lights at every corner, wall, floor, and every now and then to see if there are any triggers they might find. Along the way towards the top, they triggered less than 10 traps, and safe to say they are slightly proud and relieved that they reached the top of the building safely. They walked in a corridor where, at the end, there is a room that is slightly ajar. They approached the door and opened it. There, they saw Shinso tied up in a chair with his mouth gagged by the cloth. The moment purple-haired boy noticed them, his eyes burned wide and he began struggling. Shinso tried to shake his head while they tried to approach him. The trio looked at him confused before Shinso frantically nodded towards the door behind them. Before they can even turn around to fully face him, Izuku struck Asui's pressure point to render her unconscious. In just seconds, the girl's eyes closed shut, her body falling to the floor. Did you have such a hard time dealing with the robots that they only sent 3 of you to deal with me? A smirk appeared on the supposed principal's once blank face, obviously meant to provoke the 2 students standing. Ida and Uraraka didn't answer him. The latter just glared at the principal. Izuku chuckled. Well, you don't need to answer. I know that they sent you 3 here. Since you are friends with Midoriya-kun, you'd have a chance to defeat me, right? He inched closer to them, tilting his head as his grin widened. He showed 2 fingers, pointing at them before wagging them in challenge. Well, why don't you show me then, students? Thus, the start of the endless dance, with the 2 students trying to attack the principal and the principal just dodging it all, Ida and Uraraka's expression grew irked and agitated, while their opponent's face remained blank as he saw through their attacks. A simple glance on his watch reminded Izuku that they only have 2 minutes left, and he just had little time to pack things up. So he purposely let Ida punch him in the shoulder, which made him fly towards the wall. Before he can even crash through, he fell weightless as Uraraka used her quirk on him, before using capture tape on his hands. Once they were done pinning him to the floor, he whistled out loud. A soft, encouraging smile appeared on his face. Both students looked at him in confusion. "Congratulations, you two! You finally defeated a villain!" Ida and Uraraka sighed in relief at his confirmation. At the same time, the timer outside gave out a sound that signifies the time is up. Both students went for Asui and probed her to a wall before they went to Shinso. "Why, there is still no announcement that we passed the test?" Ida asked Uraraka as he cut the ropes that bound Shinso while the brunette removes his gag. "I don't know too, but the timer already stopped while we defeated Nezu-sensei." The girl bit her lip, throwing the purple-haired boy's gag away. All of them took a glance at the principal, who just smiled at them. "Actually," Shinso scratched the back of his neck before kicking Uraraka in the stomach and lashing out his capture weapon to bind the girl. In seconds, the girl was tied up. Ida looked at them in shock before recovering from it and tried to attack Shinso, only to fail miserably because the purple-haired boy already expected his attacks and analyzed his partners in the battle with Izuku. Immediately, the capture weapon wrapped up Ida's body, and he was thrown beside Uraraka, all tied up. Uraraka looked at him in alarm and disbelief, struggling to get out of the binds. "What? Shinso, what are you doing? This isn't the time for joking," the girl exclaimed, and Shinso simply scoffed. He crouched down in front of the duo, a blank expression on his face, but the eyes tell that he was irritated. "I'm not joking, Uraraka. Didn't you remember what Sensei said? When the timer stops, so do I." He stared at the both of them, silently asking them to figure it out. Of course, that didn't work out. What do you mean?" Uraraka stuttered, her body slightly trembling with fear. Shinso sighed and ran a hand on his face. "I'll stop." He stood up from his crouched position and immediately went for Izuku, freeing him from the capture tape. "Pretending that I was in your side." His lips quirked upwards as they looked up at him in betrayal, their eyes showing that they were hurt. "He said that we defeated a villain, not the villain." Uraraka gasped at her realization, and Ida's eyes widened at the implication. "You traitor!" Ida yelled, struggling more to free himself, but Shinso knows it's futile. He made sure that they can break through the binds. "Sorry, but we'll just take the win." He apologized, but his expression tells that he is not sorry at all. Shinso put out a hand to Izuku, and the latter simply shook his head before fishing out something from his pocket. "Here you go, Shinso-kun. Congratulations." Since Shinso wanted the honors, Izuku gave him the device that he used to announce the winners. The purple-haired boy immediately clicked the announcement button, and suddenly A voice resounded in the fake city, announcing the winners.
The villain team wins.
Izuku disabled all the traps in the building so that they can get out of the building safely. He cut the capture weapon that tied up Ida and Uraraka before moving on to Asui. He gently tried to wake up the girl, and when she woke up, her tongue lashed out to him, thinking that the battle was still ongoing. Luckily, Izuku was able to sidestep. Uraraka went to her side, immediately stopping her from attacking any further and telling her the events that transpired. The acting principal beckoned them to follow him, and thus they began to walk towards the exit to meet up with the rest of their classmates. "Hey Shinso, could you at least tell us why you are the traitor in this test?" Uraraka asked the purple-haired boy who was walking beside them. Asui raised an eyebrow in confusion, and Shinso just sighed.
Remember that I wanted to stay in the area earlier because I felt like something I need to check?
He asked, and the girl gave her in affirmation.
Well, the truth is, I saw the principal going somewhere near that area, so I stayed there to get information. It didn't really work out, because it was his plan all along.
All of them except Izuku looked at him in shock. Asui put her finger on her lips, seemingly contemplating something. "Plan?" she asked, and since Shinso looked uncomfortable answering them, Izuku took it all as his cue to answer. He chuckled again to gain their attention. "It was my plan to make Shinso-kun see me. At first I just wanted to make him a hostage, because that's what villains do, mostly, when the end is nigh. But I realized that wasn't fun, so I proposed him to be a double-crosser." All of them looked at him like he was crazy. Well, they aren't really wrong. He knew that Nezu and he has a similarity of having a few loose screws.
"Is that really necessary, Nezu-sensei?"
he heard Ida ask, but he didn't give him an answer. He wanted them to figure it out themselves. He knows Shinso already knows, but the other three students seem to still think about it. Later on, he gave them a slight sigh. "I'll explain to you the full explanation once we join the rest of your classmates and your homeroom teacher." They finally reached the exit of the building, and once they were out, they saw that the other students are gathered outside, with Aizawa on the side and a recovery girl treating injuries. Izuku clapped to garner their attention. "Well, students, you might not have passed the test, but there is still room for you to improve. So, in the next days, expect that we will hone your skills, your predictive and analysis, so that events like this won't transpire in real life." They seem silent as they take their defeat before a certain glove was raised in the air. "Yes, Hagakure?" he called the girl, who put her hand down once she was caught. "May I know what happened inside the building that made us lose?" Hagakure asked, which also made her other classmates curious, except the ones who went to the building earlier. Izuku gave the girl a grin before pointing at Shinso. "Good question. Shinso, may you do the honors?" The purple-haired boy glared at Izuku, but Izuku just tilted his head and stared at him. They maintained the eye contact for a while before the former conceded. Aizawa looked at them suspiciously. Did Nezu say something to Shinso that he doesn't know?
"Fine.
In this test, I am a villain alongside Nezu-sensei." It was quiet for a while, before their eyes were blown wide with surprise and disbelief. Of course, Bakugo just scoffed, but his expression also screams that he was shocked by this development. "What?" a lot of them exclaimed, and supposed principal laughed at their baffled expressions. "Yep, he's right. I made him act like a hostage to you, but in reality, he was my ally." "But why, monsieur?" he heard Ayama mutter. Izuku felt his heart break a little. His classmates are really clueless, aren't they? Izuku knows that there are heroes in the industry that double crosses. Nezu firsthand taught him that. He should never trust people easily. An example of this is Hero's Blooding Go. I want to tell you that these events that happen here in the test are all based on true experiences. Aizawa firsthand experienced this kind of scenario in his first year of being a hero. Right, Aizawa? He asked the hero who was leaning on a tree, and then all of the students' eyes went to him. Aizawa gave a sigh before pushing himself off of the tree. "Unfortunately, there will always be a chance that the one that you trusted will turn their back on you in the battle. The one you are trying to save will be the one trying to lead you to your demise. There are a lot of reasons for them to do that, but one of the most common reasons is that they are either threatened, persuaded, or both," he stated quickly, joining the principal and Shinso in the front. Said purple-haired boy just looked in the ground. "What did the principal do to you, Shinso, for him to join him?" he heard Kirishima ask, and Shinso gave the redhead a rosy smile. "Both. He threatened me and persuaded me some things, which is better than you will never know." But Kirishima was about to ask further, but was interrupted by the principal. "If he doesn't want to talk about it, students, let him be," Izuku said with finality, effectively silencing not only Kirishima, but the other students also. "This is why I wanted to hone your predictive and analysis skills. A lot of heroes lost their lives because they aren't able to know what is happening, and their lack of insight into the event that is transpiring. I'm sure some of you became suspicious of Shinto when he stayed behind. Am I right?" Izuku made sure to look at Ida and Yaoyorozu, who just looked at the ground, former clenching his fists. "I'm not saying this is for you to become more suspicious of Shinso and your other classmates. I'm saying this to you so we can make sure that when these kind of scenarios happen, you will be ready to face them and fight, even if they were your colleagues." He gave them a soft smile to try to reassure them before clapping his hands once Recovery Girl gave him an affirmative that all the students were now treated. "All right, all of you are dismissed. We will continue your class tomorrow. Hopefully by then the quirk has already worn off, and I will meet you, all of you, personally." He gave them all a polite smile before waving his hand in dismissal. Minutes later, only Aizawa and the Recovery Girl remained with him and sighed. "Aizawa-kun, Chiyo-san, please gather all of the teachers again in the meeting room. I have an announcement to make." The blood-clad hero just closed his eyes before he nodded, then walked away with Recovery Girl in his tow. Izuku stayed there for a while, just seeing the smoke in the buildings that he exploded earlier. Hopefully his sensei won't mind that he exploded some buildings and he used his stash of robots, even though he already knows that his mentor probably knows about it by now through his cameras. Izuku sighs again. It's time.
So, why did you gather us again, Principal? Aizawa looked at Hisashi, asking the principal about the agenda of the meeting. The rat paid him no mind for a few moments, just sitting on the center of the meeting table, a blank expression on his face, while checking his phone once in a while. Well, I have an announcement to make, Yamada. And that is, the principal said, but before he can even finish his sentence, a real rat showed up from his lab, effectively scaring some of the teachers. To announce that I am back! Due to some of the teachers' shock, a few pens were thrown at them, although the green-haired boy just caught it all with his hand. The quirk already wore off? That fast? Snide questioned, and the rat that sits on the kid's lap just shrugged. No, Snipe. It looks like all of you are going to need a seminar with me. Until now, you still haven't figured out who is the person I was sitting at. The principal ruffled the green-haired boy's hair and gave the kid a smile. No way. He heard Nemuri mutter beside him. Her shock is still apparent in her eyes. Midoriya, who was used as the principal's chair, just gave her an apologetic smile. I'm afraid it's a yes way, Sensei, the kid responded, and Aizawa was taken back to earlier events that transpired. The times that he supposed the principal has an odd way of speaking, the times that he keeps looking at Aizawa, and the eye contact with Shinso. Aizawa slammed his hand on the table and pointed it to Midoriya. I knew it. You were purposefully giving me clues, weren't you? As if a mouse getting caught, Midoriya gave a squeak before nervously chuckling. Yep, although I'm surprised you were the only one who was close to figuring it out, said Aizawa-sensei. Clues? There were clues? We didn't see it at all, Blood King exclaimed, and Midoriya just scratched the back of his head. That's probably because you weren't paying attention to the mannerisms of your boss beforehand, which made you think that everything is normal, Blood King-sensei. At that moment, the whole meeting room is silent by his statement. The teachers seem to be having a crisis, while Nezu started laughing with glee, clapping his hands. Aizawa suddenly stood up and held a piece of his capture weapon in his hand. Izuku, knowing what his sensei was about to do, immediately booked it. Nezu-sensei, if you would excuse me. The green-haired boy stood up and placed the principal on his seat before bolting out of the meeting room, Aizawa on his tail. Get back here, Midoriya Izuku! The teacher yelled while he was chasing the boy in the corridor, which made many students look outside the classroom. He didn't care about the audience, though. He just cared about just capturing the kid. That fooled them all. Although that might take a long time, because he already knows that Midoriya is master at escaping. In the end, they ended up in the 3A classroom, with the green-haired boy avoiding his capture weapon by jumping on the walls, dodging every attack. Nezu-sensei, why are you jumping in our walls? Ashido asked, but the only reply she got was a laugh from the green-haired boy. Idiots, you haven't learned in the test earlier after all. The class heard Shinso say before slamming his head on the table. At that moment, all of them chose to ignore the chase that was going on in their room, more intrigued by what Shinso said. What do you mean, Shinzo? He felt a little rocky, nudged him, and Shinzo can't take it anymore. Do you know why I was threatened and persuaded? Because that person is Midoriya, not the principal. Connect the dots for yourselves. The purple-haired boy let out a groan and slammed his head again on the table. He muttered under his breath, which was not left unheard by the people near him. Why did I get friends with maniacs again? Just as they were reeling from the shock of Shinzo's reveal, they heard the window glass shatter, and all of them saw Midoriya jumping out of the window. I already said I was sorry, Sensei. They heard the green-haired boy scream as he was falling, but to their surprise, their homeroom teacher also jumped out of the window. Get back here before you break a bone again, you little shit. Safe to say that not only the class were traumatized for life, with Midoriya's acting as a principal, they were also never gonna forget the first time they heard Aizawa-sensei curse. So that was the fanfic. This is the end. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video. And thanks again to MischievousAtHeart for letting me podfic their amazing work. Bye!